I give my body, heart, and soul to the lady whom I seek. No plea for help shall find me wanting. No obstacle will stand before me.
Can you believe it's been like a year since I started this unit highlight series, and there is by all means no end in sight? Pretty awesome in that way. One of the units I covered in the early days was Wardancers with dual swords. Today we're going to be talking about the spear variant Azrai spears. Very, very interesting unit in a number of ways. This build, yeah, very interesting kind of defensive geometry spear build against Bretonnia, so we'll take a look at that. I believe the player who submitted this, I apologize, we'll get to that in a minute, said the build was stolen from Anticity, which I am a big proponent of stealing builds. If you see a build that you like or you think is particularly effective, or maybe you get just completely face-rolled by somebody, I would definitely recommend you fully steal their build. 100% welcome practice. But, yeah, for this, we've got today, interesting Bretonnia build, not exactly what I would take into the Wood Elves, but it's got Fey Double Paladin, so hard to go wrong with that. One Royal Hippogriff Knight, very fun stuff, some Questing Knights as well, Peasant Bowmen, Men-at-Arms with Shields, Beast Slayers of Baston, and Battle Pilgrims up front. I'm not sure, it seems like he was maybe expecting a tree build with all of this armor piercing, like anti-large AP here, we've got, you know, AP Questing Knights, AP Royal Hippogriffs. So seems like maybe he was expecting a tree-based build, which can be quite good here in the right situation. But instead we've got staunch triangle or pentagon or whatever this is of spears. So, yeah, on the Wood Elf side, Glade Riders, got a couple of Glade Captains, also on horseback. Love that pick here. Dryka leading the way on foot. 3 Azrai Spears, plus Wardens of Kithral Wildwood Rangers. Probably one of the best infantry units in the game, secretly. And some Eternal Guards with shields. More Glade Riders over here. So the idea, I guess, is you just have as much anti-large armor-piercing infantry as you can take. The Wardancers are definitely a good part of that. They have a few issues as a spear, I guess, more halberd unit, right? Since they are true anti-large AP. Weapon strength is not great. They're not truly elite. I would definitely call them upper mid-tier halberds. So really, I mean, I would consider them in the same tier as like Empire Halberdiers. They're like Empire Halberdiers are like the extreme low end of that tier. Wardancers are the extreme high end of that tier, right? But almost no armor, but they are very fast at 46 speed, which is great. 49 melee defense is very good. But again, that squishiness comes into play. Very low HP overall. Only 5,000 HP as a total unit. 20% physical resistance does help offset that somewhat. They do have immune to psychology. Obviously, charged defense. This Woven Mist can give them some serious missile resistance in case you get caught out. And that is obviously one of their main vulnerabilities. No missile block chance, very low armor. Squishy HP means they can get lit up by missiles. So you definitely have to be careful of that. But they can trade incredibly cost effectively into large armored units because they hit pretty hard. Bonus versus large of 23, which is insane. Means they're hitting for 53 melee attack, right, and 55 weapon strength against large units. They turn into absolute beasts in the right situation. Here, you can see the Bretonnian player making some mistakes already, allowing these Glade Riders to get back here and finish off that Trebuchet. Really, from the Bretonnian player's perspective, it would have been beneficial to stick by the Trebuchet. You don't want to stand directly next to it. You want to definitely try and forward defend, use these archers to kind of poke the Glade Riders if they come in and try and shoot, and more or less just try and rain fire from the Trebuchet on this defensive position, but that plan is already out of, out of option. But at the same time, literally all the Fey Enchantress needs to do is not die and just, stand in melee near this blob, and it will all slowly die of attrition. So as long as the Fey Enchantress is still good to go, Bretonnia absolutely has a chance to get in here. A little bit of friendly fire on that Penumbral Pendulum from Dryka, as she mostly misses the Knights, but that's fine. Hippogriff Knights charge down. They've been taking some shots from the Glade Captains, so they've already taken some HP damage, but this is just a horrifically inefficient trade for them as they get ground down by all this anti-large armor-piercing stuff. So far not great, but the Fanchantress now getting in, along with the 2 Paladins here, can start to drain away some of this infantry unit. A little bit of a Dryad summon here to help provide some extra bodies. And the Wardancers starting to take some damage here. This unit matched up against just lots of stuff. You can see the Battle Pilgrims kind of filtered in here. And some of them are slightly surrounded. But the Battle Pilgrims, that is like a textbook unit that the Wardancers do not want to fight. They will just trade horribly inefficiently. Yeah. Really not a good trade for them. And the Battle Pilgrims are slowly starting to work their way through this formation. Another little Penumbral Pendulum here. Doesn't do too much damage to the cavalry. Honestly, probably should have put that like down this line here of Pilgrims. But eventually, I mean, the Wardens of Kithral, they have good enough stats, 64-45, that they do not need... yeah, they can beat the Battle Pilgrims, no problem. Dryka, though, does get surrounded here by these Battle Pilgrims, and just wanted to point out, Bretonnia also making another pretty significant mistake here. With Dryka being kind of isolated here and having no supporting troops around, the Fanchantress and the 2 Paladins could, as it stands, pull out this direction, wheel around here, and come snipe Dryka, and that would actually be quite strong. Would probably even things considerably, but instead, the Fanchantress is continuing to fight here with the 2 Paladins, and the Glade Captains being here, along with all of these Azrai Spears. Again, the Azrai Spears are going to do damage very quickly against the Fanchantress. I mean, even with the stacking physical resistances, you can see there's like multiple units of Wardancers in base contact at any given point. That is really not good, especially when the armor-piercing anti-large of the Glade Captain with her Azrai Spear is accounted for. It's really a bad situation for the Fanchantress and the Paladin to be in. But the Knights are going to rush in, try and bail them out. They can kind of sense that the situation is starting to deteriorate here. So a nice charge, and you can... I mean, even non-kind of quote-unquote shock cavalry here, right? Still charging in and doing significant damage. Regrowth on the Fanchantress. Will it go off before she routs? Yes, it does. So she's got her Vigor refresh there. She's got her health being restored and continuing to drain. Can the Fanchantress sustain is the question. But any time that they're not cycle charging, they're just sitting in sustained combat here. The Fanchantress and the Paladins are just getting crippled, just worn down very quickly. And you can see, even with the regrowth, putting the Fanchantress back up to her healing cap, just the density of Azrai Spears here, the other heroes eventually do end up routing her. Dryka manages to survive just, you know, by the bark of her face. Beastslayers of Bastone getting routed there, and that should be army losses. So a few mistakes from the Bretonnian player, both from an army composition standpoint and from a kind of micro standpoint, but even still, interesting build for the Wood Elves. You know, back before the not the most recent, but before the Wood Elves got their update, this was often what people would try and do in this matchup. The issue is, if Bretonnia brings enough volume of cavalry, this just isn't going to work. We saw already with a relatively low volume of cavalry, like, you know, there's still a few healthy-ish spear units here at the end of the day, but a lot of them were quite tattered, and it wouldn't have taken that much more stopping power from Bretonnia to really finish wiping the floor. But as it is, the Fanchantress sitting on top of those Azrai Spears, I mean, a lot of these spear units did get pretty good value. Like, some of the Patrol Guards are very cost-effective here as well, but this one Azrai Spear had to have done most of the work here, because it just stole all of the value from all the other spear units in the entire build. So, yeah, 2,600 damage value on a single, you know, kind of, what is it, 950 cost halberd unit is quite good. Glade Captains also contribute nicely. Dryka doing her thing. Glade Riders also super cost-effective when they can sit and shoot, and they do. Fanchantress draining out some value, but obviously not enough as she needed to. The Paladins likewise doing very little work. Really, the goal of the Paladins here is to snipe your opponent's Lord, primarily. So, again, just kind of that. There was a situation where they could have peeled out and gone to try and snipe Dryka, but they did not. As a result, it turns out pretty rough. The infantry, though, all trades very cost-effective. Battle Pilgrims You do see them occasionally in this matchup. They're not a unit that I'm that big of a fan of, but here's one situation where they can trade pretty well. The Beast Slayers of Bastion, though, is a really odd one for me. Like, even if they do bring trees, this is, you know, just bring more archers. Just bring fire archers, right? And that's really for the Bretonnian build. Like, if you want an area unit, you know, maybe take a unit or two of Pegasus Knights just as some insurance, but I do get that up against Hawk Riders. You know, Hawk Riders can be somewhat dangerous here. Or, alternately, just bring more archers, right? Just max out on the number of archers you can bring, and then bring some more shock cavalry as well. Like, you really don't... I mean, it's good to have maybe a couple of Questing Knights for armor piercing, just in case they do bring some trees. But even then, like, the anti-large of the Paladins, the Fanchantress, the fact that she takes almost no damage from the trees, they can wear them down over time. You really don't need the armor piercing, so just save some money, go for Knights of the Realm and a Knights Errant, and just bring more volume of cavalry. Like, you want at least minimum 4 shock cavalry here, if not more. So, yeah, just kind of some build analysis. But fun stuff. Luthien here, sending that one in. Apologize for forgetting your name earlier, but yeah, he said he stole this build from Anticity. I do like it quite a bit. I might make some minor alterations here or there, but in terms of the sort of upper mid-tier halberd, kind of weird specific group, but Wood Elves as Rice Spears are in there. 950 kind of puts them like right at the borderline of mid-tier to elite. Another unit similar in cost, but quite different in terms of role, is Chaos Warriors with Halberds. Basically, the only thing these two units share in common is that they're infantry units with 75 models, and that they're anti-large armor piercing, but the weapon strength is actually closer than I thought it would be. Only 32 weapon strength on the Wardancers, but only 34 for the Chaos Warriors with Halberds, and 19 bonus versus large. So, in fact, the Wardancers with Azrai Spears do hit significantly harder against large targets. They have a higher charge bonus. The immune to psychology is great for fighting monsters. That is one thing, probably one of the most underrated traits of the Wardancers, is the fact they have immune to psychology. Like, even Phoenix Guard do not have immune to psychology, and for a halberd unit to have that makes a huge difference in some circumstances. I mean, also have very good leadership as well, as they are elves, of course. Actually, slightly less leadership than the Chaos Warriors with halberds, but let's ignore that for now. Again, melee defense, very good, but that HP, literally 1,600 less HP than Chaos Warriors with halberds. So they are extremely squishy. You have to protect them and, you know, deploy them appropriately. Kind of like some of the other glass cannon units we've seen recently. They are very much a tactical weapon rather than an all-around, you know, Swiss Army knife type unit. You do have the Regiment Renown as well, which we did not see. If you want to pay even more for a Wardancer that's even squishier, you pick up extra Dance here, which allows you to get more melee attack and, you know, get killed even faster with lower melee defense. As much as I joke about this, I actually have seen that Storm of Blades used to pretty good effect in some replays in the past. But anyway, yeah. What other mid-tier halberds can I really think of? Kind of mid to elite tier halberds. There's a few RORs that may fall into this category, like we saw there, Slayers of Bastion. I guess the Beastman ones are a little more expensive. You could maybe consider them like an upper tier halberd. But yeah, I mean, these guys have the same weapon strength as like men-at-arms with polearms, right? So it is actually quite bad in comparison to other units of this price range. Granted, they have more models as well. Yeah, you know, there's really not a ton of units like kind of within this range. I guess the other one I could think of would be Tomb Guard with halberds. These guys have silver shields, which is great. And again, 2,200 more HP than Wardancers, so I think you get the point by now. Wardancers, very good if used correctly, but one of the squishiest units in the game, to be honest. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.